What's shaking, green peas? Welcome to my prison/recovery/addiction channel. My name is Johnny, and let's just go ahead and get rolling. Today we're going to go over, well, it's almost like 3 videos in one. You've got my first fight in prison, the scariest thing a prisoner will ever experience. Not 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 of those things. Just one thing. I experienced it. You'd experience it if you ever went. And any of those who have been, you've done it. I promise you, you have. Everybody's done it. Now in Georgia, you go to one place and one place only. And I don't care whether you raped, robbed, pillaged, stole, did drugs, or maybe took a company car out on a drug binge and then bombed out of residential treatment like somebody I know. In Virginia, for instance, you could go to a number of receiving prisons. And what a receiving prison is, it is a place that you go to before you go to your actual prison. They use it for classification. They use it for a battery of tests. They might give you an IQ test. Virginia doesn't do that. Georgia does do that. They're going to give you a physical. The dentist is going to check you over. They're going to find out whether you got HIV, AIDS, the ninja, the package, the whole bit. They're going to find that out. And then at that point, that's going to dictate, based on your charges, how you act while you're at receiving. All that stuff's going to get mixed up together, and then they're going to shoot you to your permanent facility. The important thing to keep in mind at this place is they put every one of these people, they put them all in this big box. And I don't know if there's 3,000, 4,000, 5,000 inmates. There's a ton of them. And it's not just people coming in for receiving. At Virginia, you can go to a multitude of different places. It could be 4, 5, 6, 7. They even have satellite facilities where they only keep a couple of hundred receiving inmates at the location or at the institution. And then they ship you elsewhere. But the majority of the prison will in fact be GPs. And GPs are general population prisoners. They are the people who have permanent racks there. Well, I say permanent. No rack is permanent. They're always subject to change. But these are the people who can essentially call that place home. All death row inmates, whether you're on schedule for lethal injection, if you're on pace to get electric chair. I think they got rid of the electric chair. I think they just do the lethal injection, but they absolutely have the death penalty. And I was actually at Jackson Diagnostic when they executed a prisoner back in 2009. Now that's a story for another video, but I'm here to tell you the environment, the climate, the institutional tension once somebody is killed by a state-sanctioned execution is something I've never experienced before, and hope to God I never experience again. And they may have changed it, but the way the classification system works in Georgia is you've got minimum out, you got minimum in, you got medium out, you got medium in, you have close security, then you got high max. And so a lot of minimum, just to kind of break it down real quick. And you know what? I'll tell you what, I'll break it down some other time. But just know this, that when I went in there, I was minimum in. Now, when I get to this place, I'm completely green. And in fact, when I come off the bus, it's raining outside. The CO is like, yo, come on, get in there. Come on, hop to it, let's go. And we're all covering our heads because of the rain. It's 3 o'clock in the morning, 4 o'clock in the morning. It's pitch black dark outside. We were rustled out of our bed to begin with to come on, get on this bus. And now here we are. We're getting thrown into the pit. And I've never done this before. And you hear stories and you watch the movies, you see the shows, and you just really have no idea what you're getting into. But you got to believe, hey, look, I just did a year in jail or 10 months in jail prior to coming to this place. It can't be that different, right? I mean, because let's face it, in jail, yeah, there's a classification system, but it's kind of the same thing where you've got a melting pot. You got everything from your country Joe, or it could be the man that, you know what I'm saying, I'll be making big mood on.
Then you got, you know what I'm saying, you got your little, your weaselly little scam artist, and who knows, he may have, convinced somebody,
You might even get a foreign prisoner who maybe had committed an assassination. In other words, it takes all kinds. You may be asking yourself, well, Yanni, what did you do? How did you get to prison? What happened your first time? We're still talking about prison, right? So when you get to Jackson Diagnostic, it's a shock to the system because the place is so huge. I mean, it's just enormous. I mean, it's everything. You think of Shawshank Redemption. When I think of prison, when I think of old school prison, I think of Shawshank Redemption. You know, tier 1, tier 2, tier 3, bars and doors and concrete as far as the eye can see. That's what I think of when I think of prison. So again, we get there. I'm a complete green pea. I have no idea what I'm getting myself into. And just imagine that duck. You know, there's a duck. You know, he's on the lake and he's just swimming around and he's just gliding on top of the lake. He or she. I don't want to be sexist. Well, I don't want to be transphobist. It is gliding on the river. Or the ducks even go in the river? I'm sorry. Just doesn't have a care in the world. He moves with the grace of a swan underneath that water barrier, paddling its ass off. I am that duck. And that's what it's like when you go to prison for your first time. Because it's a receiving prison, movement is very limited to protect the guards, to protect the inmates, to protect the convicts, to protect the GPs. Imagination is just run wild because it's like, what in the world am I getting myself into? Is it like the movie? I mean, I felt like Tango and Cash where the dude is like, "Hey, Cash, I'm gonna put brown sugar in your ass." Oh, you wanted Cash? That's not me. Anyway, you get there, they strip you down, nut the butt, put the lice shampoo on you, change you out in your whites. Now in Georgia, you wear whites. In prison, when you finally go to your permanent facility, that's what you're wearing. You're wearing your stripes. There's stripes on the pants. But at Jackson, you've got the jumper, and it's white. And it's not like some other states that I've been in, unless you're a GP. And out of like around, I want to say 2,500 inmates, you probably have 250, maybe 10% are actual GPs, Gen Pops. So you've got about 2,500 inmates at Jackson Diagnostic, 250 of which are GPs, and you've got a handful of them that are there on death row. I mean, they call it the death house. They be doing it in Georgia. Because we ain't convicts yet. You know, until you are a GP at another facility, at that point you're a convict. But until you get to Jackson Diagnostic, until you get through it rather, you're just an inmate. And that's exactly what I was, a transient prisoner waiting to get to my final destination, presumably. Now, day one, felt like Tango and Cash where the dude is like, "Hey, Cash, I'm gonna put brown sugar in your ass." I could swear I heard that when I was going down the tier. I'm not sure. Was that? And you know, at this point, here I am. I'm 31 years old. This is my first experience in prison. Yeah, I had done some jail time before. Where I was at was minimum security. I had worked in the kitchen. And then I worked my way up from the kitchen to outside detail. I got kicked off not one, not two, maybe three, maybe even 4 times. A number of those times I was actually caught for smuggling drugs, which is an episode for an entirely different time. But it was kind of not, it was kind of like kiddie camp. I mean, yeah, it was boring, it was jail, it was all those things. But because I had access to all these different like detail jobs, it made the time pass by a lot smoother. In fact, when I was on outside detail, our whole pod was smoking cigarettes. But of course, you give a convict an inch, we're gonna take a whole mile. You know what I'm saying? And we're gonna take all that. I probably did take more than a mile. The statute of limitations passed on that? I think it has. So yeah, I was smuggling drugs. So here I am at Jackson, you know, where they're dressing us out. We get our whites. We get in there from the rain. They do the nut the butt. We get the lice shampoo. And you're literally like with like 40 fucking other dudes in there. Everybody stick your hand out. You got 40 hands and they're all outstretched and they're just getting this sort of like lice shampoo killer thing. But we're all naked. Dicks hanging out. You know, some people are peeping. And I don't know what's going on. I mean, I've never been in this situation before, so do I look? Do I not look? Do I just look ahead? And of course they tell you, you know, like, "Hey, inmate, go ahead, look ahead." I mean, they are all up in your face. I mean, they think it's a freaking boot camp. And really, other than going to chow, it's a 24-hour lockdown facility. So here we are, I'm at Jackson, and I've got I get my cellie, and he's huge. Never have I been in a place, a 2-man rack, that's as small as Jackson. I was already doing a lot of hustling in jail. I had access to tobacco, and I had access to other things, and I had to bring them in, you know, by all sorts of means, from whether it was a shoe, whether it was something else. I mean, it was coming in, and it was getting in, and it was getting out. Let's just put it that way. Maybe I'll get into it in another video. Maybe I won't. Once you get inside, you are like that duck that I was talking about earlier. That was me. Outside, cool exterior, I beefed up a little bit, but no kind of big guy at all. So, needless to say, I was fucking terrified. But when I was at Jackson, they had tobacco, and they had it on the canteen. However, we, as non-GPs, could not buy this tobacco. We could, however, buy stamps. And that's how the hustle was born. A book of stamps at that time, I want to say was right around $8. Now, in order to acquire a pack of Bugler, you were going to have to come off of a book of stamps plus 5 stamps. Put the money together, it's about $10. So $10 for 2. Not only are they coming up, I mean, they're really coming up. They're not doubling their money, they're not tripling their money, and they're not quadrupling their money. These guys are quintupling their money. So it was definitely a hustle worth engaging in. I had already had all this time over at Carrollton where I was rolling cigarettes. I was smuggling cigarettes. I was selling cigarettes. I mean, it was cigarettes. I was rolling my ass off 20, 30, 40, 50, sometimes 100, maybe even sometimes 200 cigarettes a day because I was selling individuals and I was selling packs. So I thought, well, hey, why don't I do it in here? The problem is I was waiting to get my stamps and I didn't have my stamp. I happened to be over by my cell. I had my cellie, my man Fred. He's a big old dude. That's another thing about being in a 2-man cell. You know, here I am kind of this average sized dude and I've got Fred over here and he's like every bit of 330, 340, 350. I mean, this is one big dude. And you just wouldn't believe it. I mean, I was expecting the worst, but man, he was the nicest guy in the world. And the dude was built straight up like Danny DeVito. So boom, here we go. I got a cool bunkie. I got a cool cellie. I mean, yeah, he's big and he's hard to maneuver around, but for the most part, he's cool. I'm thinking, I gotta smoke. I've been smoking the whole time in jail, and I'm ready to start smoking in the joint. Something magical happened. I don't know if it was driven by God or it was just serendipity, man. It was just like the sun and the moon and the stars aligning. They all came together, and all of a sudden, and I saw this old man in a wheelchair named Pops. Well, white boy, let me holler at you for a minute. Well, hey, you know, first of all, my name isn't white boy. You know, it's Yanni. You know, I ain't be asking for all that, man. Man, I need to ask you a question. Okay, what's up? Man, you know how to roll? What, roll your wheelchair? Yeah, I mean, I could get behind there and roll you. You need to go somewhere? Are your arms hurting? No, man, what is you, a comedian or something? I'm talking about rolling these cigarettes. I said, do I know how to roll cigarettes? Do I know how to roll cigarettes? Yeah, I rolled a few leaves in my day. I mean, what are you talking about? I be going through these packs and I know y'all white boy like to smoke. Let me see what your roll game look like. Said, yeah, I want you to roll the whole pack and I'm gonna clock you. And if you roll like you say you do, then I got a job for you. Okay, all right. So you want me to roll cigarettes, you want to time how fast I roll them, and you want to see the quality of how many I can roll. Let me tell you a little bit about Bugler. It comes with 40 rolling papers. So you're going to get 40 cigarettes, you know, theoretically. You're going to get 40 what are called white boys. The other term, which is blue steel, which is not rolling paper. That is actually the wrapping on toilet paper. Out of one pack of Bugler, you can get every bit of the 40 roll-ups plus 10, 12, 13, maybe even 15 if you're real skimpy, blue steels. So you're looking at upwards of 50 to 55 cigarettes a piece, and these white boys go for 2 stamps a piece. Blue steels go for 1, white boys go for 2. So 40 times 2 is 80. That's 80 stamps, and then another 10 for the blue steel piece. That gives you a total of 90 stamps. And that's how the prison economy works. We started with a pack of Bugler for $2. It changed hands for $8 worth of stamps. That's 1 book. Now we have 4.5 books of stamps. So that's 32 plus half, $36. So $2 to $8 to $36. That's a hell of a come up. Now it's important to note that I did in fact pass that test, and I was now Pop's new roll boy, maybe? Is that what it is? Roll boy? So now Pops has done put me in the car, man. He's put me in the game. Now I gotta hustle. Now I can smoke. And in fact, I can get a little bit of extra stuff, maybe buy a little canteen on the side. Or what I can do is I can just stack all this stuff and parlay it and turn it into something of my own. Here's the breakdown. Pops gets the pack. Pops gives me the pack. I roll 40 white boys. And then I got 10 blue steels on the side. Now, Pops' deal was this. You give me 38 solid white boys, the rest is yours. So add it all up, and you've got 14 stamps. Now, of course, I am gonna smoke some. I am gonna smoke some of my cigarettes. Half of those blue steels I went ahead and pushed off. The other half, I went ahead and smoked. Now, in order for me to get all the way up and get my own pack, now I gotta do this 3 times. Needless to say, I've got my nut. I've got enough to come up on a pack after about 2, 3, 4 days. I don't remember exactly how long it took, but it was just a few days. I couldn't do it myself. I didn't have the connection to get in there and get the pack. I didn't know the dude that had him. And of course, I wasn't gonna ask Pops if I could get his connect, because then he knew I'd be cutting him out. And of course, I got to break him off. So everybody wants a piece. And that's kind of how the prison economy trickles down. It is definitely trickle down economics, Reaganomics at its finest. So I've got to send my homeboy Hardcase, just a little bit of a friend that I made while I was locked up. I got to send him off to go get the thing, as he just wants to smoke. Well, I'm happy to flip him a couple of blue steels for every run he makes. And sure enough, within 4 or 5 days, I got a pack of my own. And now I'm selling my own thing. Now, of course, I don't let Pops know about this. I'm gonna go ahead and go through his stuff and keep making money, keep making my cut. I mean, it's kind of generally understood that, look, I mean, if you're a prison hustler, eventually, you're gonna put some skin in the game, right? So now I'm still rolling Pops' stuff, but I've got my own. And 1 pack turns into 2, turns into 3, and we keep going. And 9, 10 days, I mean, I got myself a little cigarette tray. With Pops, it was kind of a don't ask, don't tell kind of deal, okay? I need you to do a job. You do what you got to do on the side, and then maybe we'll meet in the middle and everybody will be happy, which is exactly what happened. What I didn't understand is that somebody had my job before I had it. I just assumed because we were at Jackson Diagnostic, whoever was doing his bidding was already gone. Turns out that dude was still there. And the reason Pops had left him and come over to me is because he was skimming too much off the top. His cigarettes were too small. He was just trying to come up too big, too hard, too fast. And Pops cut him out of the picture and then picked me up. Now, I didn't understand anything about stepping on somebody's toes or hustle. In jail, it was pretty much fun and games. Well, let me tell you something. In Jackson Diagnostic, you get in somebody's way, you're gonna get got. And it's right around this time that this dude named Leroy pulls up on me and says, look, man, I don't know who you is or where you came from or what it is you think you're doing, man, but you in the way. And I'm like, me? I'm in the way? Yeah, you white boy. I said, well, first of all, let me tell you this, man. My name ain't white boy, it's Yanni, all right? He's like, yo, man, you done jumped in my car, grabbed the whip, and done took off. And I'm like, I don't even know what the hell that means, man. What the hell are you talking about? I was doing that thing with Pops, and now you doing it instead of me. And at this point, I'm starting to get a little worried. A lot of times when you're in prison and you're locked up, you literally could get into a fight every day, probably every hour. If you took offense to every little slight, every little look, every little thing, every little you'd be fighting, and you'd be fighting a lot. At a 2,500 man facility with nothing but murderers, rapists, you name it, it's there. Anything can happen, anything goes. So naturally, I wanted to talk my way out of this situation because this dude, let me tell you something. Number one, he's about 6'1". Like I said, I'm 5'9", 190, but I'm kind of a semi-soft 5'9". Maybe I can do something for you. Maybe I can work something out. Because I've already got my own thing going. Maybe I can put you back in the car with Pops and all's square, all's fair in love and war. What do you think about that? Look, man, I'm just trying to smoke. You bust me off with a couple of them white boys and we call it square for the day. All right, Leroy. I'll tell you what, man, I can't just give them to you because they're not mine. At this point, I'm kind of pawning it off like this is Pop's shit. But in reality, it is, but it isn't. A lot of it is mine too. I mean, it's all gets kind of mixed up and I'll take care of it in the wash. So I'm like, listen, man, I'll give them to you for my cost, man. You already know the deal. This is coming out of my pocket. I get 2 out of every pack. I'll tell you what, man, let's just go ahead and split it. I'll give you 2 for a stamp apiece. Ain't nobody getting that price, but I'm gonna give it to you. Fair enough? So as we're having this conversation, the bars start rolling. Now I'm on the bottom tier. Leroy is on the top tier. And the way it worked back then was the bottom tier rolled first, and then 5 or 10 minutes later, they'd roll the top. He was outside the bars. Now I'm inside the bars, and we're still steadily having this conversation. And he's like, all right, bet. 1 stamp apiece, 2 white boys, done. I learned this lesson the hard way, man. Always get your money first. There you go, Leroy. Now, every other time up until this point, for the most part, in my incarcerated experience, a deal is a deal I've held up my end, and the other party has held up their end. And then he just turns heel and starts walking. Now, he's not walking fast, he's not doing, but he doesn't say a word to me. Leroy, what's up with them stamps? Yo, white boy, you already know what it is. And that's when it hit me. This dude just got me for minutes. I don't know how long I stood there. I hear the top tier clink, and I hear my celly, Clayco. And he says to me, and I don't even turn around. I don't even turn around to look him in the eye. I'm so ashamed right now. Because number one, I'm scared. I don't know what to do. Number two, this guy just chumped me off. And number three, I don't know what the hell I'm gonna do. Am I gonna check in? Or am I gonna fight? And at this point, I know damn good and well, this ain't a fight I'm gonna win. Look, Cristo, you got to do something. You can't just let that go. And I'm like, what's up, Fred, man? I've been feeding you. I've been smoking you up. Anytime you want a cigarette, I got you. Anytime you want something to eat, I got you there too. He's hustling the cigarettes for me too, because we're kind of in business together. I mean, really, it's my business, but in prison, you got to keep mouths fed. You make somebody starve and you just eating right in front of them, they're going to feel some type of way, guaranteed. So I'm like, all right, well, I mean, what is this guy even locked up for? I mean, do you even know this guy? He's like, so I ain't really know him. But he's, you know what I'm saying? He's kind of like that. He went ham on these dudes out in Fulton County. Clayco, just out of curiosity, what in the hell does going ham mean? And this kind of gives you an idea of how dumb old Clayco was. He goes, shit, man, I figured they had so much beef that it just turned into ham. Okay. He's like, you're gonna have to go at him. I said, well, look, man, what if he's got some people with him? He's like, he's been locked up for what? For murder? He's like, man, that dude's straight out of Alto. I said, what the hell is Alto? Well, Alto was a prison that they put 25-year-old and under in Georgia. Now, it wasn't around at that point in time. This was right around 2010. Alto was like the original certified gladiator school for the state of Georgia. They even had this thing called the Alto Shuffle. I don't remember exactly how it went, but it went something like that. If you guys are from Georgia, you know exactly what I'm talking about, the Alto Shuffle. I had already ran into a few guys that were ex-Alto inmates at one time or another, and generally these guys were thrown all the way off. Crazy, batshit insane, not somebody you're trying to play with. So now here I am, I'm pacing around the room, and this is not a small room. I mean, my pacing was more like this. Hey, Clay. I mean, are you in? You got my back, man? If things go south, man, can you save me, bro? Because I ain't gonna lie, I'm just gonna go ahead and tell you this, and you never want to tell somebody your weaknesses when you're locked up. But I only had the right because my left arm, I had a torn labrum and a torn rotator cuff, and it was so bad that literally the force from throwing a left-handed punch would sometimes push it right out of socket. It would just, that shit'll drop you to your knees. All I heard as soon as this bar was, yo, man, I just got that white boy. I got the white boy for the white boys. Because as I mentioned before, white boys are cigarettes. I really wanted to check in because I just didn't want to deal with it. I mean, at this point, I only had like 11, 12 months left to do. I'd already got a year in the hole. Most of that time I'd done in jail. So at that whole night, it's just churning. It's just stewing. I mean, every single fiber in my body is saying, get out. So that whole night, Clayco's gassing me up. He's telling me I gotta act, I gotta do something. I know inherently, like right here in my soul, I know I have to do something. So I'm going back, I'm going forth, 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 I'm going back, forth, back, forth, back, forth, back, 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 back. All right, so I'm trying to get psyched up, man. I'm trying to get my blood up. I'm trying to get my juice up. I'm trying to get my heart into this thing. So it's time to make a decision. Check in or chin check. The problem with this guy is that he's gonna fight back. I mean, that's a lock. He's already in here for a very violent crime. Word on the street or word on the block, word on the tier is that it's murder. I could just check in, go to my next compound. I'm probably gonna make parole in a few months. What the hell difference does it make? There's no reason I gotta put my life on the line over a couple of cigarettes, right? Wrong. Everybody that leaves this place is going to another facility. They're going to another institution, another prison in the state of Georgia. Word will travel. And I don't know what I'm getting into. I don't know where I'm going next. So I finally resolved it in my head. My plan was to strike first, strike hard, and strike last. He's got 2 hands, he's got 2 arms. The only way that I can get this dude is with pure deception. I'm gonna find him right before Chow Hall, and I'm gonna be like, yo, Leroy, got something for you. Because look, a lot of guys, when they get got, somebody robs them, somebody steals them. I gotta show them something, and I gotta tell them something else. Boom, bars roll, 6 a.m. All right, mount up, regulators. It's time to go. Except there ain't no regulators, there's just a regulator, and I am the regulator, or at least I think I am. But like a jack in the box. Boom. And that spring-loaded jack was ready to blow out the box. And this was the jack, and that was the box. So I'm walking down the tier, and I'm trying to be cool, man. I'm trying to be cool. But I'm not trying to be too cool, because I don't want to seem too confident. I want any red flags to raise up in this dude's head. I look at it. I pass it over to the left. Immediately, he looks over there. I'm about 10 feet away. I drop my left hand down. His hand goes towards a cigarette. Why? Because Leroy just wants to smoke. Okay, Leroy, you don't want this smoke, but I'm fixing to give it to you, boy. I show him the right. I switch it to the left. I drop the left. He looks down. I rear back. I swing for my heels. Crack. You couldn't ask for a better punch. I could not have possibly hit this dude any harder. It was literally one of the very best punches, maybe the best punch I've ever thrown in my entire life up to that point. His head went this way, and then it went that way. Now, I know I'm in big trouble. So this big bastard scoops me up and Lex Luger's me right into the concrete. Man, I didn't see stars. I didn't just see stars. I mean, I saw the motherfucking Avengers. I mean, before the Avengers even came out, I saw Thor, Loki, Spider-Man, Iron Man. I mean, it was crazy. And right as I'm about to eat a hook, and I do eat this hook, but he misses it. He grazes it just off the concrete, just a little bit, just enough for me to get my left hand on his collar, and I'm over here on my back just praying, just hanging on for dear life. When somebody's on top of you, you keep them as close to you as possible so that way they don't have any leverage on you when they throw a punch. And that's exactly what I did. And I put my left hand on the collar and he's pulling back. And I could feel it just about to dislodge, but I start working my way. It's about to go out of socket. So I start working my way down his shirt, down to his nuts. And I grab his nuts as hard as I fucking can. And then both of his hands go down to protect his junk. And I grab this dude by his neck and I pull him next to me. All I hear, you ever hear like a little puppy you pull on its tail? That's the sound Leroy made. One of the sweetest sounds I've ever heard in my life. I took those state shoes and I put the brand, I put GDC, Georgia Department of Corrections, right on his forehead. And I didn't stop kicking till the Ninja Turtles came in. So those Ninja Turtles, they came in with the shock shields, 5, 6 deep. I don't even remember anything, man. I was blinded by the light. It was a glorious moment for me as a convict because that was the moment where I made my reputation. So now, it's on to isolation, where I sat for 2 weeks before I went to my next camp, which was Alburris Correctional Center. So I sat in isolation for a couple of weeks. The warden blessed me, and he says, "Hey, Christo, you've been blessed. We know that the dude was bigger than you. We heard that he stole from you. And we knew you were defending yourself. So you go to parole boot camp. You got 90 to 120 days to get out. And that's it. Go back to your old life. This ain't for you. This ain't for you." So I mentioned earlier that this video is about the scariest moment that you, me, or anyone else will ever have in prison. It wasn't eating a piece of a man's face. The scariest moment was looking back in that mirror after 2 weeks of thinking about this and seeing that polished aluminum reflection all warped and misshapen. The scariest moment for me was looking in that reflection and liking it. Oh, and Lero, listen, man, this message is for you. If you happen to somehow, by some miracle, by some stroke of luck, the sun, the moon, and the stars all aligned, and you somehow weaseled your little sick ass out of the Georgia Department of Corrections penal system, buddy, I got a message for you. I want you to know this, and this is straight from the heart. That little piece of chin music, that, I promise you, hurt me a hell of a lot more than it hurt you. So do me a big favor, tough guy. Keep your chin up, stay out of trouble, and I'll catch you on the flip.